As we gather together yet again, let us light this chalice as a symbol of our shared faith and our common purpose. May the flame remind us, connect us, and invite us into these spaces, ever sacred, that we create together.
Welcome this morning to River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation. If this is your first time or your fourth decade among us here, River Road is a place that welcomes all of who you are. We don't come to this place with our answers intact, but instead our very deepest questions. Shared with the fullness of our hearts alongside each other, we do not come to this place whole. We come to this place in pursuit of just a little bit more wholeness in community. And so, you are most welcome here this morning. As we continue to celebrate our theme of love this month, our hearts that we put on the wall for all the helpers last week are still back there on the wall. I'm exceedingly proud that someone put a heart with my name on it. I would like to invite you, as you are so moved, to go check out that wall of helpers and all of us who aspire to be helpers on your way out of the sanctuary today. And of course, our great blessing is not just what we do together, but how we are together. And this morning, we begin our time together by greeting each other. Please turn to greet your neighbor. You can shake a hand, you can flash a peace sign, you can do whatever you need to do.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Linda Ryden. Many of you know that I'm a teacher, and I am the Peace teacher at Lafayette Elementary School in DC. And in my Peace classes, I talk about mindfulness and conflict resolution and brain science and social justice. And I also talk a lot about love, which is our theme. So, as you can imagine, when you talk about love in an elementary school, you're met with some giggles and general embarrassment, and that doesn't usually stop me. But recently, I got a reaction that I hadn't heard before. I was teaching a class of fifth graders, and they're about 10, 11 years old. And I told them that we were going to be talking about love, and we were going to be doing a mindfulness practice that would help us to develop feelings of compassion. And I've been teaching most of these kids since they were really little, 5 or 6 years old. And so they're used to me. And so when I say things like this, they're fine. But this year, we got a whole bunch of new fifth graders at our school. And these were all kids who had gone to different schools and had never experienced anything like my Peace classes before. So let's just say it's taken a little getting used to. So on this day with these fifth graders, when I said, today we're going to talk about love, and we're going to do a mindfulness practice called heartfulness, apparently that was too much for one of my new students. This boy named Jack raised his hand and he was like, I'm going to stop you right there, Miss Ryden. Heartfulness? Seriously? This lovey-dovey rainbows and unicorn stuff is so cringy. And if you're not up on your fifth grade slang, cringy is not good. Yeah. So I said, you know, Jack, I agree. I think that rainbows and unicorn stuff is cringy too. But luckily, that's not the kind of love that I'm talking about. I said, when I'm talking about love, I'm talking about something radical and difficult. I'm talking about the kind of love that can make us want to stand up for each other and fight for each other's rights. I'm talking about the kind of love that can make us all feel connected on this planet. I'm talking about the kind of love that can be learned. Just like hatred can be learned, love can be learned, but it takes practice. I'm talking about the kind of love that can help us to change the world. And love itself isn't going to change the world, but we're definitely not going to change the world without it. And so we practice. And he looked at me and he was like, oh, okay. Let's do it. And so we did. So I'm going to invite you to join me in practicing some radical love like we do in my Peace classes. So if you would just get into your mindful bodies, you can close your eyes or look down in your lap, whatever feels good for you. And let's just take a deep breath together. Just breathing in and breathing out. I'm going to ask you to think about somebody that you care about, somebody who makes you smile. It could be somebody in your family, it could be a friend, it could be a pet. And just hold that person or animal in your mind. And I'm going to say some words out loud, and you can think them or whisper them softly to yourself. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. And just notice what that feels like. Any way that you feel is fine. Now let's think those same kind thoughts about ourselves. Sometimes that can be a little harder. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. Now I'd like you to think about somebody that you don't know very well. It could be a neighbor or a bus driver, maybe somebody in your class that you don't know very well, or somebody right here in this room. And just see what it feels like to think those same kind thoughts about this person. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. And finally, let's just think those kind thoughts for each other. Let's think about everybody here together in this room, everybody watching at home. Just notice what it feels like to think these kind thoughts for each other, knowing that other people are thinking these kind thoughts about you too. May we all be happy. May we all be healthy. May we all be peaceful. Let's just take another deep breath all together. Just breathing in and out. And you can open your eyes or look up when you're ready. Thank you for practicing some radical love with me.
Right, and that's not cringe at all. And now our children, youth, teachers, and guides are invited to head to your religious education classes. Note that the 3rd to 5th graders have changed to a bigger classroom today, so if you feel lost, just wait, and your teachers will find you. A life and a collection of lives are filled always with joys and concerns, with sorrow and with laughter, with new beginnings and the ashes from which every new beginning arises. I'll invite you at any point throughout today's service, as you are so moved, to light a candle for the joys and the concerns that live in the silent sanctuary of your own heart. But there are a few I want to share with us today. Firstly, that we grieve the passing of Edward Hoke, Sylvia Hoke's son. Edward was a larger-than-life character with a great big laugh. He and his brother remember walking the halls or running the halls of this place as they grew up here in the 70s, and we'll be remembering him in a service on June 10th. We also remember the life of Debbie Pakalak, longtime River Roader. Debbie is an artist, a reader, a friend to many. In accordance with her wishes, her memorial service will take place on May 1st at Glenstone. What Debbie wanted most of all was that there would be no speakers, no scriptures, that instead attendees might wander in the quiet of nature and art, perhaps find a silent ritual all their own. There will be music, there will be a reception, but most of all, there will be space to remember and to celebrate. Today we also lift up on behalf of Zoe Core, who serves in public education at Blake High School. She asks for our love and support for the family of one of her beloved students. This young man is working hard to graduate high school, and his brother, Justice, was shot to death this week on a metro bus in White Oak. Zoe met with that student and his family last week. They are heartbroken and they are trying to hang on. For each of us, for every one of us, for those who accompany us in grief, and for those who find a way through the worst. In lieu of a prayer today, I have a poem, one I've been reading and rereading to myself for Ash Wednesday from Jan Richardson. All those days you felt like dust, like dirt, as if all you had to do was turn your face toward the wind and be scattered to the four corners, or swept away by the smallest breath as insubstantial. Did you not know what the Holy One can do with dust? This is the day we freely say that we are scorched. This is the hour we are marked by what has made it through the burning. This is the moment we ask for the blessing that lives within the ancient ashes and makes it home inside the soil of this sacred earth. So let us be marked, not for sorrow, and let us be marked, not for shame. Let us be marked, not for false humility or for thinking we are less than we are, but for claiming what God can do within the dust, within the dirt, within the stuff of which this world is made, and the stars that blaze in our bones, and the galaxies that spiral inside the smudge we bear.
When we come together as a community of communities, week after week, month after month, and year after year, we do so knowing that we are actively co-creating and building a world that works for all of us. The sacred work we do to build justice and carve out spaces of liberation is upheld by the values and the foundation of our common purpose. Each month we highlight the work of organizations who share this common purpose and do the work of building justice in our communities and our wider world. This month, we extend our offering to the UU Legislative Ministry. Our core values invite us to be active participants, not only in the ways that we choose to vote, but in the relationships we cultivate with our elected leaders and the legislation put forth that impacts and affects the communities in which we live, work, and love. Now we'll hear from our partners at the Legislative Ministry, what they do, and how we can get involved.
Good morning. I'm Steve Buckingham, and I wish I could be with you in person this morning, but I'm singing in the choir at the Frederick congregation right now. I'm one of the founders and the advocacy lead for Unitarian Universalist Legislative Ministry of Maryland, today's Extend the Offering recipient. After our successful legislative session and UU the Vote efforts last year, a new day is dawning in Maryland government, and we are working to create even more positive change this year. The newly elected General Assembly has convened, and a new governor has been inaugurated. At our annual legislative kickoff in January, our keynote speaker was Eric Luedtke of Montgomery County, most recently the House Majority Leader, and now Governor Moore's Chief Legislative Officer. We currently have advocacy teams that are working for the passage of 33 important measures across 6 issue areas: immigration, environmental justice, criminal justice reform, medical aid in dying, gun violence prevention, and health and reproductive rights. Our website helps keep you up to date on hearings, voting sessions, and other events. And subscribing to our emails will alert you when to reach out to your senators or delegates to express your opinions on issues and make an impact. At our website, uulmmd.org, you can learn more about our issues, subscribe to our weekly digest and alerts, and even join one of our issue advocacy teams. We deeply appreciate and rely on your continuing support in moving our state towards becoming a just, compassionate, and sustainable community. Your contributions of time, effort, and resources are needed in this critical time of challenge and opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you to all of those who have supported UULM in the past through your participation and also through giving. If you'd like to learn more about the legislative ministry and how to connect and even join an advocacy team or the work beyond, you can click on the UULM link on our website under the Social Justice Giving tab, and you can also give there. You can also text to give right now at 73256, or you can give right in the basket as it passes. The work of the legislative ministry bolsters the work that we already do in our community of communities, the work that we do to build justice, the work that we do to carve out liberation matters deeply. This is one way that we live into our values, and this is one of the many ways that we build beloved community. Please give as you are willing and able.
There was a morning when the rising sun glanced off of the already ancient stones of Jerusalem, when two processionals made their way into that sacred city from opposite sides. One processional came from the east, down from the Mount of Olives. A man came into the city riding on a young colt, borrowed that morning from some farmer, perhaps returned that evening to that same farmer, because I like the story better that way. And because this was a peasant processional. Over fields and dusty streets, the people gathered to say something to each other about what is sacred in this world and beyond it. And because this was a peasant processional, the young man on that young colt, a bit of a wandering peasant himself, there were no feathers, there were no gilded fans to waft in his direction along the route. Instead, the people along the roadway and in the middle of the fields, they literally picked the leaves right off of the trees and they waved them in his general direction. In a low cost and perhaps even somewhat humorous impression of the kind of tribute paid to the wealthy. Meanwhile, across town, another processional altogether was underway. This one bore all the splendor and the might and the pomp and the circumstance of the Roman Empire. The roadway was guarded by imperial troops. The people kept well back from the route by shields and riot gear that have honestly not functionally changed in the 2,000 years or so that have come since then. This processional, coming in through the main city gates in the west, was meant to show power, to flex wealth, the overawing capacity of the mighty to subdue the common. The empire pulled out all the stops for this other, less famous, but at the time, far more prominent processional, because here, arriving in the west, from his seaside palace in Caesarea, was the governor of Judea himself, the man history knows as Pontius Pilate, come into the city on this day, as he always did on major Jewish holidays, to pacify the masses, to remind them that he was in command, connected to an empire so much larger than any resistance they could muster. As some have said before, in the face of such a display of power, resistance is futile. The Roman governor of Judea, he rode into the city on a litter carried by slaves, the morning light glinting off of helmets and war horses, the air filled with the beating of drums, the clang of metal upon metal that always bespeaks empire, the peasant preacher wafted by leaves plucked off of trees in imitation of the mighty, in mockery of the empire. This, as it is told in the Gospel of Mark, the oldest of the Christian scriptures, is Palm Sunday. The week before Easter, this is when the son of Joseph, a peasant surrounded by peasants, enters the city and encounters the imperial powers that will in fact take his life and burn his insurgent movement down to ashes in just a matter of days. The leaves plucked from trees that the peasants waved in his passing were palm fronds, the only implements left of praise when people are systemically plundered by colonial powers. Jesus on his borrowed young colt, Pilate surrounded by war horses. Some have said that this point, counterpoint, processional, and counter-processional is Scripture's most striking example of an organized political demonstration. The followers of Jesus conducting an act of community organizing, political theater designed to show that while empire processes in a display of wealth and power, the people process to the simplicity of their own courage in the very looming shadow of their certain death. One parade gives evidence of what people can do with unlimited power. The other was designed to show what people can do with the dust and ashes and the scraps left over when their very existence is threatened to be burned away, when grief, anticipated or remembered, holds us close, and yet still we do the good, hard work of moving down the dusty streets of our lives. That's Palm Sunday. And I love it when you hear the story in that deeper way. My big sister, Kara, was born on Palm Sunday, my mom always loves to tell us, in April of 1976. And I have always been strangely proud of that fact. She came into the world on the same day Jesus entered the city in that parade of mockery of the powers. Every single year of my childhood, I remember the palms that we would get in church on the Sunday before Easter hanging in this neat little circular braid. Did any of your families do this? Braid the palm fronds? My mom had a nail tacked up actually right next to the stove between the kitchen and the dining room, and she would hang on that little nail every year the palm fronds that she braided into that little circle, a circle of green among the faux brick linoleum floor, month by month fading into the palest beige, losing all of its suppleness by summer, deteriorating with the days until the season turned right around again and we made it all the way in time through Ash Wednesday and Easter and everything that came, or through Palm Sunday and Easter and everything that came back. We made it in time to Ash Wednesday, which is this week, this coming Wednesday, in fact, when believers, including my family, will take the palms from all that time ago, a year and several seasons past, and burn them together to create ashes. Ashes that remind us that just as those deteriorating palm fronds braided by our own hands do not last forever, we do not live forever. That just as grief and courage would come to claim that peasant facing down an empire 2,000 years ago, grief and courage will come to claim us all. And like those peasants who refused to stop living, stop working, stop moving, even up to the end, we too have the power to meet our finitude with less fear. Do you know about Ash Wednesday, I wonder? Some of you, it's well written in your bones. It is not exactly a Unitarian Universalist holiday, let's say. Some of you may just be curious about those weird smudges you see on the foreheads of the faithful right around this time of year. Some of you, like me, may have been embarrassed even by such a practice. I usually was. Too embarrassed to go to school, so marked, I used to hope and pray for an early swim practice that next morning to wash it all away before my friends could see. And yet, every year, this mark made by a thumb, the words spoken by generations over each head, remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. As the contemporary theologian Kate Bowler has put it, the smudge of ash on Ash Wednesday is our finitude etched into our foreheads. In the theology of her tradition, which may or may not be your own, but I promise you has truth for believers and non-believers alike. That's my disclaimer that I'm about to use the word God several times. Kate Bowler writes that this ritual puts us in relationship with the reality of our limits, our fragile bodies, spoken over us like a curse. From dust we are made, to dust we return. Some days, she writes, we need to be reminded that we are not the perfectibility projects we set out to be. We are full of bounce and brimming with hope, all woes solvable, all problems a distant whisper when we don't feel like dust. Bless us, O God, in the ways we trick ourselves into believing that our lives are something we've made, that all of our accomplishments and successes and mastered mornings add up to something independent of you. But on days like today, when our heads hang low, sunk with the grief of our neediness, bless us when our joints don't work like they should, when we grow sick or turn gray too soon, when our bodies betray us, or perhaps they are doing exactly what it is they are supposed to do. Tell us again exactly how you made us from dust to dust. Blessed are we, a mess of contradictions, in our delusions and our deep hopes, in our fragility and in our finitude. There was a year one time when I was not quite a minister yet, but working on it, when I used to take on-call chaplain shifts at the local hospital to pay the bills and things. And during that year, on a very cold February night in Chicago, I was there for an overnight when Ash Wednesday came around. Now, it had been a whole long time since I had bore those smudges on my forehead and hoped to wash them off before school, and I did not know if this was a task that I was either qualified for or up for, or if it would be some sort of heresy if I undertook it, and yet there were no Catholic chaplains on call that night. Just me and this very kindly Presbyterian. And when our supervisor pressed 2 little tins of ashes in our hands, we knew that the task before us was to do the job, to administer ashes on that Palm Sunday to all those in the hospital who had requested it. On that long night, it was my thumb that pressed the form of a cross onto people's foreheads. It was my mouth that spoke those ancient words, "Remember, you are dust, and unto dust you shall return," to a woman who certainly would not make it through the night, and whose adult children didn't seem interested at all in talking to each other ever again. To a mom who had just that day become a mom and who beamed right through her exhaustion. To a young woman I knew very well who had suffered in a way no one should ever suffer and wore that smudge of inky blackness on her forehead in this matter-of-fact, flinty-eyed way that told me only the very privileged or the particularly dense, like me, could ever get the luxury of forgetting that we too come from and return to ashes. On the forehead of a guy so drunk and so lonely that I frankly was not sure if he actually wanted ashes or maybe just my hand on his forehead for a moment. Now, I am not going to steal somebody else's liturgy and press my hand upon your heads unwillingly and remind you all of Palm Sunday. We don't really celebrate. That's not how we do things here. We make our own way. And yet, I don't think that the reminder of finitude and courage is expressly the domain of the more traditionally faithful among us. They were not all believers who lined the streets waving palm fronds pulled right off the trees when a peasant preacher passed them by in the streets of Jerusalem so long ago. They were not all believers. Some of them were honestly just fed up, and some of them no doubt were lonely, or sick, or traumatized, or beginning again, just like us, just like we have always been. On Ash Wednesday, we say, "Blessed are the fragile, Blessed are the imperfect, the limited, the ones who are aware of their finitude, who know that they march even now into the jaws of great risk. It is a boldly countercultural thing this season. It is quite something to declare with a swipe of the thumb on one's forehead for the whole world to see, to say with that gesture, I know that I am limited. I know that I am not always right. I know that I will never be perfect. It is quite a bold thing to wear that on your forehead and still go about your dang day. Tennis shoes paired with a nice skirt suit on the subway, toting your yoga mat through the rain, sitting in silence in a city park, fighting to stay clean and healthy another day, wondering what comes next for you. All of us stumbling through together, admitting that some things we thought might stand forever have been burned down to ashes all around us. It is a bold thing to wear that kind of declaration on your forehead on a Wednesday. But I am reminded that the processional in those city streets, where the first palms that would become the first ashes first waved, that processional was not just one of impending doom and the coming grief. It wasn't even just a theological expression of this man Jesus and who he was, or who all the theologians for a couple thousand years would declare him to be. It was also a statement that no matter what the world and the empires of oppression within it might burn to the ground, the people could resist, could find courage, could keep on, could quite literally proceed through it all. Plagued by our humanity, blessed by our finitude, we too go on. And in the going on, we too discover what God can do with the ashes. Miracle or not, believer or not, we are all marked by our shared brevity. And it is our persistence that blesses us in the end. The fact that the way evermore leads on. Made from the dust of the earth, to the dust of the earth we shall return, but not before making the journey that is uniquely ours to make. Not before speaking the truth of our souls along the way to the people most equipped to hear it. Not before praising what there is to be praised, including all the prophets and all the peasants and all the partners we meet along the journey. Everything we do together is an expression of how we want to be together, not just here, but out in the world. And there are so many ways to get involved and get connected and be the kind of person you want to be, both here at River Road and in your life inspired by what we do here. For starters, we have this really wonderful, fun opportunity starting now to spread the word about how you can take what we've done here with the solar panels at River Road, take that information and that inspiration to help you know how you could bring solar power to your own home and your own businesses. This Sunday, February 19th, like right now-ish, at 11:15, we'll gather in the fireside room, and we'll be with Corey Jacques from Aurora Energy, who is our system designer and installer. We're also going to have a Zoom session. I think it's this coming Wednesday at 7. You can find out more information, and really this is an opportunity to take what we've done and share it ever further in your own circles. You can also join us for a really wonderful conversation. There are flyers on the chairs of our UUA Common Read book, Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism. The stories in this book are drawn from congregations, some right here in the region, some exactly like us, about this journey toward being a more beloved community of communities. How might our work in anti-racism and multiculturalism continue to change us all? You can sign up now. I think registration ends March 1st. Also, our Preventing Gun Violence Ministry team invites you next week after the service at 11:30 to gather for just sort of a regrouping, an opportunity to be together. Tim Beardsley will be facilitating it, and we want to invite you to come together for fellowship and community and to also ask, what are the new strategies that can best serve us in this ministry so deeply, deeply needed in the world right now? And finally, in many ways, the best form of service that we do, like all year, the easiest, the loveliest, is Shelter Week. This is our congregation's 35th year, providing a week of food and supplies for the Interfaith Works Women's Shelter in Rockville. And we need you to sign up now. You can bring all different kinds of food. We accept donations, large and small, especially dinner entrees for $15, the kind of ones in those big aluminum pans. We need it all. We're also seeking kitchen supplies. You can find out again in the e-weekly or drop an email to shelterweek@rruuc.org, and we'll get you all set to in ways to give and serve to those who benefit most deeply from it. Finally, we know that everything we do because we are a community. And we are brought together in worship today by the love and labor of so many, including our choir, Shwai, Cliff, our whole tech team. We got Danny and Ajay and Jeff Hollingsworth in the balcony today. We even had Reverend Amanda in the choir today. So, what did we not do? And so as we prepare to leave this place and take this light we have kindled out into the waiting world, may the truth that makes us free, the love that casts out fear, and the hope that never dies guide us and those we love and those we do not love forward together till the day spring breaks and all the shadows flee away. Amen.